Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here, your source for gaming, tech, emulation, and open source news. Let's get started. Alright, to kick things off, we're talking about Nintendo Switch emulation with Eden. Eden has yet to be officially released. There was an earlier alpha build that was leaked, and the Eden team said just to wait because they are working on things. And now it seems they're going to be releasing their own version pretty soon. Now, earlier on, they had mentioned that Eden wasn't supposed to be ready for a few months yet. However, this is an early release. It's set to release in just a couple of days. And the reason for the early release, they say there are fake repositories about the project on the internet, posts attempting to discredit the project's development, and constant pressure from certain toxic groups. After a heated discussion with the team about recent events and info leaks about performance with the emulator, we've decided to launch a pre-alpha, going against our initial goal of an official release 3 months from the start. This would include changes to the interfaces and a much more concise performance regarding the changes we have made. We are clear that, by our standards, this is not what we would have liked to deliver to the community, and we are deeply saddened and disappointed about it. If you are curious about this one and wanted to learn more about it, like everything we talk about, links are in the description below right at the bottom. I don't hide my sources. On this Reddit post, there appears to be a link to their Discord server as well as to the 2-day countdown. Now, to be honest with you, I am kind of surprised about this announcement, and I say kind of for two different reasons. Reason number one here, I would have expected the developers to be able to tune the noise out and release this when they are ready. I mean, regardless of when this releases, Eden is going to be, it's going to be a little bit controversial here and there just due to how messy the split was with Citron. I'm not saying Eden was in the wrong here, I'm just saying the split was very messy, and well, there's probably people who are going to continue to harass them. And that brings me right into point number 2 here. So point number 2 is that there's a number of bad apples in the emulation community. I wouldn't even classify them as members of the community because they seem to be way more destructive and harmful than really anything. Anyways, here, developers are pretty easy to access, so if someone really wanted to get a hold of a developer, you kind of can in the emulation community, and that presents its own problems. So I can kind of see why they'd release this early just to quiet down the noise a little bit. And speaking about the Nintendo Switch, next up we're going up one generation here and talking about the Nintendo Switch 2. And it's being predicted by Nintendo that the Switch 2 is going to have record-breaking sales at launch, by selling more than 15 million units. I'm not going to lie here, I'm very curious to see how this holds up and what the actual sales figures are. I mean, the PS4 and the PS5 sold around 7.5 million units each at launch, and this is double that, or you could say it's the PS4 and PS5 launch combined. And that is really, really impressive. So I don't know here if this is going to hold up. I mean, the Switch 2 is incredibly popular, and I'm assuming a number of these sales are going to go towards scalpers, and we're going to see a whole lot of scalping going on too. We'll have to wait and see on this one, but it does seem that there is going to be a shortage of Switch 2s on launch. And continuing to talk about Nintendo, next up we're talking about the whole Nintendo versus Palworld lawsuit. Now, we've talked about this one a couple of times in the past, and it seems that further progress on the lawsuit has been made. Palworld is making a change. So here's the statement from the Palworld Twitter account. Currently, we remain involved in prolonged legal proceedings regarding alleged patent infringement. We continue to dispute these claims and assert the invalidity of the patents in question. However, we have had to make certain compromises in order to avoid disruptions to the development and distribution of Palworld. So back in November, they did release patch version 0.3.11, which removed the ability to summon the pals by throwing pal spears and instead changing it to a static summon next to the player. And then on top of that here, they've got a brand new patch coming along, which is patch version 0.55. And what they're going to be doing is changing how gliding works. They say gliding will be performed using a glider rather than pals. Pals in the player's team will still provide passive buffs to gliding, but players will now need to have a glider in their inventory in order to glide. They go on to say, we understand that this will be disappointing for many, just as it is for us, but we hope our fans understand that these changes are necessary in order to prevent further disruptions to the development of Palworld. Based on my understanding of the situation, Nintendo is trying to shut Palworld down, stop sales, and all of that. And I would say these changes just help Palworld continue while this lawsuit is underway. If Palworld wins, I'm assuming that these changes will be reverted. If Palworld loses, they may have to make further changes or take down the game altogether. I've got no idea there. I don't know what's going to happen moving forward here. I'm assuming Palworld is probably going to make a few changes here and there as well, just to kind of be dynamic and bob and weave with this lawsuit. I don't think these changes are indicative of Palworld winning or losing. I think they're making these changes to be proactive here and also just to avoid any sort of disruptions by allowing the game still to be for sale, by allowing the player base to grow, and also by allowing them to continue to develop this game instead of putting the brakes on absolutely everything and killing momentum. On a side note here, I'm wondering if Nintendo or Pocket Pair has ever seen the Never-Ending Story. I mean, you can ride below animals, you can ride on top of animals, and they seem to be pals. I mean, I'm not going to lie here. I'd be surprised if Nintendo won on the patent of riding animals. It just seems that this concept is not new to video games, not new to the film industry, not really new to anything. And other games, you could argue, have very similar mechanics. And speaking about lawsuits and also Nintendo, next up here, we're talking about the new Nintendo user agreement. And this one has been pointed out by Twisted Voxel, and I would say this is going to cause a little bit of stir in the community. So Nintendo user agreement update prevents customers from filing class action lawsuits against the company. Yes, you read that right. This new user agreement goes into effect in May, so now I guess. And Twisted Voxel has summarized some of the main points here. You can't sue Nintendo in court. You can't have a jury trial. You can't join others in a class action lawsuit or any group case. And any dispute must be handled individually, one-on-one through arbitration. So if you've got a dispute with Nintendo, you may want to read this user agreement before accepting it. However, and there's a however here, but I would say that this is going to be missed by a lot of people. This is not really clear at all, and I would say this is kind of unacceptable. That's just my opinion. Users can choose to opt out of the arbitration rule, but they have to do so within 30 days of agreeing to the new terms. And they got to send a letter to Nintendo, a written letter, with their name, the contact information, and the email tied to the Nintendo account. And then, yeah, that is, just not surprised. Now, if you think this is BS, feel free to read up and learn more about things. And again, like everything we talk about, links are in the description below at the bottom. I mean, this part here is right from Nintendo's website. And there's a huge section in all caps here. This agreement contains a binding arbitration provision and class action waiver, and goes into detail what we had just talked about. But let me know your thoughts about all of this in the comments below. I am curious to hear your thoughts on the matter. I'm assuming some people may say this is just par for the course for some big companies. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, we covered Roku doing something very similar to this a few months back. I am disappointed to see this from Nintendo. They've existed for a long time without needing this lingo in their user agreement, at least to my knowledge. I'm wondering, though, if they're doing this to try to cut down some legal fees, given the fact that they seem to have been launching a lot of legal cases recently, and maybe this is a way to save them a few bucks overall if someone disagrees with them. I really don't know here, but again, let me know your thoughts. And speaking about legal stuff, next up we're talking about Valve and Classic Offensive, and I would say this is a rare L for Valve, and is that L backwards? L, a rare L for Valve, a very big L in my opinion, and that's because they've issued a cease and desist to Classic Offensive. Classic Offensive is shutting down. So here's their statement. After 8 years of development and despite being officially greenlit by Valve in 2017, we are devastated to announce the cancellation of Classic Offensive. This decision follows abrupt actions by Valve that prevent us from releasing or continuing development on this project. Following our green-lit approval 7 years ago, we were granted Steamworks access and continued development, navigating technical challenges and CSGO updates, all with the clear expectation of bringing Classic Offensive to the community via Steam. We submitted our build for review in October 2024, only to have the project unexpectedly rejected in January 2025, with a generic response stating it was not a good fit, disregarding our prior greenlit status. As we prepare to update via ModDB instead, we received a cease and desist notification from Valve's socials just hours before launch. In follow-up communications, they clarified that releasing Classic Offensive would be distributing derivative content based on their intellectual property, which is not permitted under the Steam subscriber agreement. There's more here, and again, links are in the description below if you wanted to read up and learn more about the entire situation. Now, I can understand that Valve wouldn't want their stuff distributed outside of Steam. I mean, if something was shut down and someone was going to ModDB instead with their SDKs and all of that, yeah, I can see Valve saying, no, don't do that. But for Valve shutting this down on Steam after originally giving it the green light, that part to me is baffling. But I don't know, maybe there's more to the story here. I mean, there's usually two sides to every story. Maybe Classic Offensive introduced something that Valve didn't agree with. I find that hard to believe. I'm confused by this one because it was originally greenlit. So I would assume that would make things okay. That's the green light to proceed. Did they not review this when they greenlit it? Like, I don't know what's going on here. I'm very disappointed in Valve at this, and I wish there was more communication from Valve figuring out what exactly is going on. Let me know your thoughts on this one, but I think this part of the statement from Classic Offensive really rings true and helps put things into perspective. This situation has implications far beyond our project, raising serious concerns for the future of modding within Valve's ecosystem. Modders should reconsider how they see Valve, a company that benefits from community creativity, while being able to shut down years of work without warning, despite going through their defined processes, which they can drastically change at any time. Now, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't disappointed about this entire situation. I'm extremely disappointed. I don't know if this has anything to do with it, but I mean, at the same time here, it's being reported that the CS2 skins market cap has passed $5 billion. So maybe there is something vaguely tied there. I don't agree with Valve's decision here on this one. I don't like seeing this, especially for the modding community, and I think this may have further repercussions. I mean, in my opinion, Steam and Valve do a lot of great things for gaming on Linux. For a lot of things, they generally support modding of games, which I think adds huge value and helps draw people to their platform. This, to me, is just anti-Valve. Maybe it's not. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. But moving on from that, and next up, we're talking about some arguably good news. So we're talking about Dinosaur Planet. And Dinosaur Planet just got a recompiled PC version, still in early stages, but it already features modding support, widescreen, and high resolutions. It doesn't have high frame rate support yet, but performance is much better than on the Nintendo 64. If you are curious about this one, Dinosaur Planet Recompiled is up on GitHub, and they say this was recompiled using the N64 Recompiled project. This is pretty quick to me, and I'm very curious to see what other games are utilizing the N64 Recompiled project. Next up, we're shifting from good news to news that may be upsetting for some people, and we're talking about Nintendo Switch stuff again, and Nintendo and GitHub. So if you're familiar with LibHac, it's no longer on GitHub. You can search for it on Google or DuckDuckGo or whatever you want to use. But when you go to open it, you get the 404. Now, I took a look over on GitHub's DMCA repository to see if Nintendo took this one down or what's going on here. And I don't see LibHac listed at all, so I'm wondering if it's just going to be a bit before it shows up or what's happening here. I don't know if the owner deleted the repository or what is going on. I've tried to do some searching and haven't come up with any concrete answers just yet. Now, for those who may not be familiar with LibHac, it was known as a .NET library that re-implements some parts of the Nintendo Switch operating system, also known as Horizon OS. One of the other main functions of the library is opening, decrypting, and extracting common content file formats used by Horizon. Next up is more of a friendly heads up here regarding some smartphones. So first and foremost, if you're interested in a brand new Samsung device, you may want to wait until May 12th for an announcement from Samsung. They seem to be in the process of unveiling some pretty big stuff. Plus, on their website, you can get a $50 credit, I guess if you're eligible, towards the next Galaxy device. And secondly, if you like Sony Xperia phones, they're going to be announcing the next Xperia phone on May 13th. And last up here, we're talking about Grand Theft Auto 6. Now, it's no secret that a lot of people are talking about GTA 6. The latest trailer was extremely popular and still remains extremely popular. I think it's still #1 on trending. Anyways here, if you're curious about the overall map, there's a team of people who've been taking a look at the screenshots, at the trailers, and putting everything into context here. And there's an interactive map online. I'm assuming this map will change and evolve with time, and it's a very interesting look at what GTA 6 might offer. Again, if you're interested, links are in the description below at the bottom. But anyways, that is all I've got for you in this one. Straight to the point, all stuff and no fluff, or maybe the legendary one fluff right here. Actually, this is probably more accurate to how I'm feeling today. Anyways, we talked about a bunch today. Feel free to discuss anything we talked about in the comments below. If you like this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button. Check out my other videos. Don't tempt fate. Save your state.